Hey folks, so this time I'm in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. So this is the bus station where I just arrived a few minutes ago, and yeah, this is it. This is our first view of my first setting foot in Kiev. First impressions, I actually took the bus here from Vienna, which was a pretty long trip. That was like a 21-hour trip. I've got to stop doing this. I think I need to stop taking these super long bus trips. I think it's just too much for me. Getting too old for this. But yeah, a lot of people are probably thinking, perhaps the first question in your mind is, isn't it kind of dangerous? Isn't Kiev dangerous? Or Ukraine in general, isn't it kind of dangerous here? The answer is no, not really. The only dangerous part in Ukraine is really East Ukraine. So Donbass, which is basically those two provinces of Donetsk and what's the other one? I can't remember what the other one is now. I apologize. I forget what the other one's called. One's Donetsk and the other is called something else. But even there, the fighting is kind of quieted down at the moment. There was a ceasefire that went into effect between Russia and Ukraine, and I think the fighting there is quieted down. But here in Kiev, and certainly in western Ukraine, it's quite safe. People come here all the time. There are lots of tourists and people traveling around. It's not dangerous to be here. I wouldn't want to travel too much east of here because I think things get a little bit more dicey the farther east you go. But here in Kiev, in the middle of Ukraine, it's pretty safe. I was wondering if I would see any obvious signs of the conflict. I haven't really seen too many. I'm actually a little bit surprised how few sort of references or indications I've seen of what's going on in East Ukraine or what has happened in East Ukraine. I did see some billboards recruiting for the army. Some billboards saying, you know, join the Ukrainian army and defend your homeland or whatever. Of course, I don't understand Ukrainian, so I couldn't really read exactly what they were saying, but I had some idea. They were very obviously for the military. And then there were some billboards that said things like Slava Ukraine, which means glory to Ukraine. So Ukrainian pride, I would even say perhaps Ukrainian nationalism, is kind of prevalent here, especially here in Kiev. On some of these apartment buildings, you can see the Ukrainian flag prominently hanging, like that one there. Has the Ukrainian flag out on their balcony. Actually, on this side there aren't that many. On the other side of these buildings, I think I saw some buildings with just a bunch of Ukrainian flags stamped all over the buildings in kind of almost a ridiculous level. I don't think I've ever seen that many national flags on one apartment building. So yeah, I would even go as far as to call it nationalism of a kind. So it's a little bit interesting to see how Ukrainians are reacting to the situation, because you know, on the one hand, of course, they are very much concerned about what's happening to their country. And on the other hand, they don't really seem to dislike Russians that much. It's kind of interesting. I would have expected that Ukrainian people would really have something against Russians right now because of all that's happening. They'd really hate Russians. I'm sure some of them do, but by and large, I talked to some people on the bus while I was riding here, and they said, you know, no, we don't hate Russians. We don't mind the Russian language. We don't mind Russian people coming here, Russian tourists. They're nice people. We don't have anything against them. So I think people understand that it's not really, you know, it's not everyday Russian people who are waging war on Ukraine, and it's not regular everyday Russian people who are trying to destroy anything. So I think they understand that, and they don't have anything against the Russian language. I was told that it's okay to speak Russian here. I don't speak much Russian, but I do have still a little bit left over from when I lived in Russia a few years ago. And I was told, yeah, if you want to speak Russian here, if you want to practice your Russian or try a few Russian phrases, it's fine. Nobody's gonna get upset at you. Nobody's gonna mind because you're trying to speak Russian in Ukraine. So my first big challenge is finding the metro. So this bus station is actually a little bit far removed from the metro, the subway underground system, and I need to find that so that I can get to the city center. So that'll be my first big challenge here. So let's see what we can find as we explore Kiev. I always find that the parks in Slavic countries are marked by their singular lack of landscaping. You get a lot of parks like this where basically they just declare this area a park. It doesn't look like anybody really cuts the grass very often. It doesn't look like anybody tends to the trees or things like that. It's basically just a big undeveloped plot of land that they said, hey, let's make this into a park. So this is, I don't mean to criticize, I don't mean it in a bad way necessarily, but this is a fairly typical park that you tend to see in Slavic countries and Eastern European countries, I think. Okay, I did finally find a metro. I don't think it was the metro that I was supposed to find. I think there was one closer, but this is actually not the metro that I got into. This is just the metro that I just got out of. So the metros in, or the subways or the undergrounds in Kiev are marked with that green M. And this took me to this impressive looking pillar with some kind of a, what is that, an angel? I don't know what that, maybe it's an angel, maybe it's some kind of something else on top. This is quite an impressive little plощad, little plaza here. So this is nice. This is a nice introduction to Kiev after getting out of the quite chaotic subway system. Here's another view from kind of on top or halfway up the little hill here. There, I guess these are paintings or pictures. Not really paintings, but like some photographs or something on sale. So I am noticing a lot of people wearing military camouflage outfits, like those guys down there. There are a lot of guys that I see, that I've been seeing wearing these sort of military uniforms. So I'm not sure if they're, I don't know if those guys are city police or if they're actual military, but you see quite a few of them around. I guess these are not for sale, they're just on display. Is that a Finnish bank? It says, over there it says Finbank. I don't know if that means Finnish.
No, that's for finance.
Oh, finance bank, okay. And we were just assaulted by a guy in a Winnie the Pooh costume down there. So when we got out of that metro station down there, there was some guy dressed as Winnie the Pooh, and he started hugging us and saying, "Oh, I want to give you a hug. You know that you want to get hugged." And we were saying, "No, no, 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 that's okay." And it's like, "Oh, no, it's okay. You know, we can all hug each other." And it was a little bit bizarre. I thought at first he was selling something, but I think he was just hugging people because he was trying to break down the barriers that divide people. So that's something. Okay. By the way, I didn't realize, apparently this may actually be the square where they had the original Euro Maidan protests. So Maidan is the Ukrainian word for a plaza, equivalent to plощad in Russian, and I guess it was named that because they had, you know, those pro-European demonstrations when people got really upset after somebody signed an agreement with Russia, and people said, no, we don't want to get closer to Russia, we want to get closer to the European Union. And I think this may have actually been the very square, this may have been the very place where they had those demonstrations, which is why you have all these sort of things like that person wearing a bandana over their face, and, you know, images of soldiers and things like that. So this is a piece of history. Just about a little over a year ago, this is where a revolution started taking place in Kiev. So here is a statue, or not exactly a statue, but kind of a statue of a person immersed in some sort of water or something. You can see their face just floating there. Here they have their hands and their feet. It's kind of like that thing from Star Wars where, was it Han Solo or somebody was encased in granite or something like that. I forget the story because I haven't seen Star Wars, but it reminds me of something like that. We suspect that this building was actually damaged during the Maidan protests because if you notice, it's kind of covered up there. It looks like they've put some sort of not scaffolding, but like a cover or a tarpaulin or something over the building to cover it. So I suspect that building was actually damaged in the demonstrations. And actually, now that I think about it, there's really not much obvious sign of damage here, considering that, you know, if you saw in the news a little over a year ago, there were people setting cars on fire, people throwing stuff all over the place. Considering how much chaos there was here back then, I guess it doesn't take that long to clean up, but still, I don't really see much obvious damage to any of the structures around here after all the stuff that happened a while ago. Oh, there's a nice little park up there on a hill. So this is a huge clock that's embedded in the grass there. I really like to show people my huge clock, but remember, it's not the size that counts. So even if you have a smaller clock, don't feel ashamed of yourself for that. Okay, on an entirely more serious note, so this is the view in front of that clock that I was talking about. So all of this is obviously a memorial to people who died. I had assumed at first that it was a memorial to soldiers, but I think this is actually people who died here in Kiev during the protests, during the Maidan protests that they had. So all of this is quite. These are obviously police riot shields resting on the ground there, and there are a couple of more over there. I guess all of this is quite recent in people's memory since it was just a little over a year ago, so I guess there's still a lot of emotions and and things wrapped up in it. I guess I didn't really think when I came here of how important it would be, but you have to think, you know, if people live here and if they witnessed civil unrest happening in their country, in their city, and a bunch of people died, then they would take it very seriously. It would be a very, very sort of emotional, important event to them. Across the street here is the Maidan Plaza with the pictures on it, and I want to find the one picture. Sorry, it's very windy today. This is actually the next day after the day before when I made the previous videos, so it's the next day. We got probably the most visible hotel in the city. I was worried that we wouldn't be able to find our hotel, but actually I just happened to pick Hotel Ukraine, and I didn't even realize it was like the most significant hotel in the city apparently, because it stands on top of that hill right in front of this plaza and monument, and probably could not have picked an easier to find hotel in the entire city. Probably shouldn't film those gentlemen too closely, but those are three guys in, what are those guys, MVS? One had MVS on his shoulder patch. I don't know what that's about, but I don't know if they're just regular city police or what, but anyway, where's that picture with the, I think it's over, right, yeah, it's over here. So here is a picture of the plaza. Oh wait, that's not the same picture. Yeah, there are a few different pictures. Oh, here we go. Here's one that shows that building there. So here is a picture that shows a sort of a burned out building, like a kind of a damaged, burned out building, how things were during the protests. And if you turn just to the right, that is that same building, and you can see it's been covered up with this, that banner says Slava Ukraini, Geroyam Slava, which means, I believe, glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. So yeah, it's a, that building is obviously covered up now because it's all burned out, but that was a damaged building from the protests. It looks like everything else around here survived pretty well. Oh yeah, here's the picture. Here's the picture that I was thinking of on this side. So here you can see the people here are always trying to sell stuff and things like that. Anyway, so that is the building there. It's kind of hard to see in the sunlight, I think. Here's a little better angle where the sun's not shining out. So that's the building there, as it looked back then, and that's as it looks now with the covering on it. We can see, I'm not even sure, there's some kind of smoke or something in the, I don't know if those are, is that smoke, or there's something, some kind of steam or something that appears to be in the air, and all these people down there. Must have been a pretty dramatic time. Anyway, I should probably move away from here and start filming something else. Let's walk down this way. In this direction is the main street. This is like the main drag, sort of the main shopping center of Kiev, with shops and stuff on it. So let's just walk down this way and see what we can find over here. By the way, just one thing that I should clarify. Just to the right of this huge clock, there is this poster commemorating some hero. I guess his name is Sashka Bili. If you read Cyrillic, you might realize that the text on the right there says Geroi Nazi. I at first thought that meant hero of the Nazis. That is actually not the case. In this case, Nazi means nation. So it says hero of the nation, not of the Nazis. Big difference. Very important to keep that in mind. Here's just a quick shot of the square from this bridge. There's this bridge leading over the street here, and over there you can see that way. But here's a bit of an overhead shot of the angel on top of the monument and the Maidan down below. So here, not far from the memorial over there, is this statue of, I think this man is a Cossack, playing his, I Actually, what instrument is that? It looks kind of like a lute, but I don't know what it's called in Ukrainian. But anyway, there's a Cossack with his horse, and behind the statue is, I believe that to be a theater. Not sure what that is, but I believe that that is a theater building. Okay, so here, not far from the memorial, also is the. This is the main shopping street. This is Khreshchatyk. One thing that's interesting about Ukraine is that they've made an effort to translate a lot of their signs into English, which is something you don't see in Russia. Most Russian signs are just left in Cyrillic lettering, so you can't even pronounce them, let alone understand them. Here, at least, things are usually transliterated into Latin letters, so you have some idea of how they're pronounced, if not what the words actually mean. I wanted to just come over this way briefly. So this is the main drag. This is the main sort of shopping street area in Kiev. Just wanted to come over here just for a second to show off a bookstore, because those who watch my videos know that I love bookstores. And here is a nice bookstore right here. So those letters in Cyrillic say Bukva, which I assume is related to the Bukvoyed stores that I mentioned in St. Petersburg, because it uses the same sort of font. It's not? Okay, maybe it's not. I thought it was related to the Bukvoyed stores, but maybe it's not. But anyway, this is a nice bookstore. There's another one over there at the Metrograd shopping center, which I might take a look at in just a moment. So this is an entrance to the Metrograd shopping center. It's one of several. It's sort of an underground shopping center. It seems to be, I think it might be one of the biggest shopping centers in Kiev, actually. I mentioned it has a nice bookstore inside it. Actually, I was wrong. It turns out to not be a very big bookstore. It's like a very small bookstore with not many books in it. But yeah, it's a nice little shopping center. It's called the Metrograd, I guess, because it resembles a metro, like, you know, the underground subway system. But it's not a subway system, it's actually a shopping mall. Here, now I have no idea what this is all about, but this pedestal, the text on it says in Cyrillic, it says Lenin, and I'm wondering if this is something that was torn down during the protests, because I seem to recall, I don't know any details at all, but I seem to recall reading in some news report that a memorial or a monument or a statue of Lenin or some sort of Soviet leader like that was torn down here in Kiev, and you can see there's nothing on it. Like, there's no, it looks like there used to be a statue or something on it and it's been removed. So I'm guessing that this is maybe something that was pulled down during the protests, because Lenin is seen as a Russian figure and they don't like Russian things here, obviously. So that is interesting. There's a little sort of a walkway back there leading up, but I don't know if there's anything up there. But this I thought was very interesting. Hold on, let's see what's written on the side. Well, it's obviously going to be in yeah, it's in Ukrainian, so I have no idea what it says, but it's a quote from Lenin. Interesting. Just as part of the sort of continuing documentary of bookstores, so right here in this underground shopping area there is probably the best collection of bookstores that I've seen. There are like 3 bookstores there. One of them seemed to specialize in English language books, which is interesting because that's not something you see very much here. And one of them had like a collection of classic books, which is great, like really old, really very well bound sort of leather antique books. And it's kind of hard to find. I don't even know what the name of the shopping center is. It doesn't seem to have any obvious name on it. But I guess as a landmark you can use that that sort of obelisk there, or this this office kind of building here, this Salute restaurant and hotel. It's also not far from the Arsenalna metro station. So if you look at the map over there, the Arsenal metro station is just a little bit northwest in that direction. So here you can see a sign which is helpfully advertising the free people area. So if you want to be a free person, make sure that you stay there, because that's where the free people go apparently in Kiev. Yeah. So here in this plaza we see there is a sort of I I guess a monument you could call it. I think it has something to do with football. Football here meaning soccer, of course, not the one with the pointy ends, but the black and white ball, because it has what looks like a soccer ball or football in the middle. But notice that the flags are all alternating Ukrainian and European Union flags. I think this has something to do with the European soccer tournament, but it seems like it's sort of not so subtle political statement as well. That's kind of the sense that I get from having this so prominently on display there. Okay, I think we have found Willie. It says, "This is Willie." And I think that word above that, I think that's war in Ukrainian, because it says Vina, and I think it's Voina in Russian. So is that some kind of commentary on how money creates war? And why is he wearing a hat and carrying a ladle with blood on it? I don't know. I'm confused. I'm not sure what this is supposed to mean. Okay, here we have a statue of a man who appears to be preparing to take a poop. I realize that's probably not what it's supposed to be, but it sure looks like that to me. Don't lie. Don't deny that it looked like that to you as well. He's sitting on a bench which is resting on a soccer ball, and there's some building there which kind of creates a nice effect with the clouds sort of sailing over it. To the left of all this, we have, I think this is the entrance to the stadium, to a sports stadium, because the first word there is stadion, which I assume means stadium. And there's some picture of some, I don't know if that's a politician or what, there's some guy there. But if you look beyond this sort of archway or sort of gateway thing, you can kind of see a, it's kind of hard to see through the trees, but back there, that's sort of a tower structure, I believe is lights. I believe those are stadium lights. So this is some sort of sports stadium or something here. One other thing I just noticed is that the sidewalk has all these sort of chalked body outlines on it, as if people died here. I really don't think that's the case, because they appear to be too small to actually be actual locations where people died, but it seems to sort of invoke a crime scene. I don't know. Okay, so we're here taking a little walk through this little parkway that's kind of on the northern edge of the city center. It's nice to kind of get away from the core, the downtown sort of city core is in that direction, and it's a nice place. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not that it's not a nice place or anything, but it's just a very emotional place to be right now, I think, because there's so much going on there with the soldiers. You see so many soldiers in military uniforms walking around. There are people actually asking for donations for the army, and they sort of, I'm here with my Russian girlfriend, and I myself don't speak Russian or Ukrainian, and she speaks only Russian, so, you know, when they hear her talking Russian, they get a little bit, there's a guy who asked us for a donation, and she answered him in Russian, and his face sort of darkened a little bit. He was sort of like, "Oh, okay, never mind then," because I guess he assumed we were Ukrainian or something. I don't know. So it's a very emotional place. Like I said, Ukrainians. Oh, there's a cat there. Koshka, koshka, kisa, rao. He's staring at us and saying, "What kind of idiots are that?" So. Like I said, it's just a very emotional place because there's a lot of tension, a lot of political tension relating to the sort of ongoing political and military conflict. And like I said, Ukrainians are pretty much at peace with Russians. Like, you know, we've been speaking Russian to a lot of people here, and nobody minds, nobody makes a big deal out of it, because there are lots of Russian tourists here, lots of Russian people traveling through here in general. So Ukrainian people in general are at peace with the Russian people, but it's still just kind of, I feel tense. Like right now I feel a little bit tense being in the city center there. And then you have those people who are, I think, trying to ease that tension. Like they're consciously trying to ease the tension by doing things which are, in my personal opinion, quite frankly, are a bit ridiculous. Like I told you, I talked about that guy in the Winnie the Pooh costume who was like he's doing it to everybody. He just walks up to everybody and starts hugging them and saying, "Oh, I know you want a hug. Oh, yeah." And he's quite aggressive about it. And I think he's just trying to be nice to people. I don't think he's selling anything, but wow. And then we saw another guy who just walks up to everyone and says, "Zdrastie," which is like, hello. he just says "Здравствуйте" to everyone, and then walks quickly to another person and says "Здравствуйте" again. So it's kind of a little bit awkward. I think you have people who realize, like probably Ukrainian people, who are acutely aware of just how tense the whole political, cultural situation there in the city center is right now, and so they're
The view is nice right here.
Oh, the view is not okay. There's a nice view here. Sort of the sun behind the clouds sort of creates an interesting effect where the clouds blacken. That dome over there, I swear that dome on top of that building looks exactly like the one over Dom Kyiv in St. Petersburg, or at least from what I remember of it. I haven't been there in a long time, but anyway. So yeah, this is a nice little park. It's nice to get away from there. It's nice to get to a place where it's a little less political, a little less tense. And yeah, people here are nice. People here are very cool. I like it. I like it here. I was correct. It is indeed a sports stadium, and in my opinion, this location is maybe not quite so ideal because even though there are obviously lots of seats, I mean, you can see there are lots of seats in the stadium, but you get a better view from up here. This is like just in a park. I mean, this is a park that's on a kind of ridge overlooking the stadium, so I don't know why you'd want to buy a ticket and get in and sit down there when you can get a better view from up here. But yeah, there's another one of those lighting towers for the stadium. And I don't know if that's the Mariinsky Palace over there. I'm not sure. Is this Mariinsky Park? But let's just stroll over here and see what we can find over this way. This is a pretty nice park. I actually quite like this place. It's very, it must be really nice in the summer when these trees have leaves on them. Right now it's, today's actually the first day of April, April Fool's Day. But this is not a joke. We are actually in Kiev. It's not a soundstage on Mars. I just want to see what's the view over this fens here, because I believe the river is this way, so I believe we're going to get a nice view over the river if we come this way. I apologize for any windiness. It's kind of windy today. My camera doesn't deal with wind too well, so if the audio is a bit windy, sorry for that. It is unabashedly windy here in the capital of Ukraine today. Perhaps in general, maybe it's a windy city in general, especially up here on this sort of hilltop. I guess this place collects a lot of wind. Don't know what that building is, but anyway. And I think as we approach this fence, I believe we have a good view, a nice view in store. I could probably pause the video and start it again once I get there, but I want to sort of show the transition from here to suddenly looking over the fence, because I think it'll be kind of dramatic. Yep, that is the river. So the river is... Actually, it's not such a nice view because there are some trees in the way, and the river's a little bit farther than I thought it would be. But that is the river down there. That is the river Dnieper, or how's it pronounced in Russian? Dnieper. Russians spell it with an E. Ukrainians spell it with an I. So Dnieper or Dnieper. That is the river which, roughly speaking, like very roughly speaking, sort of divides Ukraine. Geographically and politically. It runs, well, this is kind of the center of Ukraine, but from here it kind of goes east a little bit, but very roughly speaking, west of the Dnieper, Ukraine tends to be more pro-Western and more pro-European, whatever that means. And then east of the Dnieper, you tend to have more Russian people, and the people tend to be more, in general, not only ethnically Russian, but also more speaking of the Russian language and more tolerant or even enthusiastic about Russian people and culture and politics in general. Out here it's kind of mixed. I mean, it's sort of, I think, like I said, people here exist in a sort of uneasy truce with the Russian people because you hear Russian everywhere. Like everywhere, the Russian language exists everywhere, but Ukraine is making great efforts to distance itself from Russia as much as possible. Hey, there's a crow there. Hi, crow. Oh, he flew away. He didn't like being filmed. But yeah, Ukraine is making great efforts to try and make itself European. I've heard that they're actually doing as much as they can to change the language, to distance the language linguistically from Russian as much as possible. Like I said, there are also efforts to Latinize things, by which I mean like make Latin letter transliterations available of signs, like street signs and things like that, which, and Russian is usually not seen on signs. It's kind of funny because Russian is much more widely spoken here than English, and yet there are great efforts to make the English language prominent here and not Russian, which is certainly not accidental. So it's very, it's all wrapped up in politics and things like that. Practically speaking, it is a country still very, very mixed up with Russian people. There are a lot of Russian people all over Ukraine, but there are conscious efforts to sort of exclude them, which is kind of sad, but at the same time kind of, I guess, also kind of understandable, because there is a lot of anger, especially now, over what's happened in Kyiv and in Donbass. Oh, the building. This building looks kind of like a... Oh, is it a theater? It looks kind of like a Loch Ness Monster, to my mind. Or at least what I imagine a Loch Ness Monster look. I've never actually seen a Loch Ness Monster in real life, but I imagine it looks something like that. Anyway, what's this on the ground? Somebody made a huge street painting on the pavement here. Oh, is it just... maybe it's just graffiti? I don't know. Doesn't really look like... looks like there was the start of something here, like that's obviously some veins and arteries, but it doesn't seem to have taken any definite form that I can identify. Oh well. Also, I'm a little bit curious if that's a nuclear power station there. There we go. So just a little bit to the left of that really tall smokestack there, you can see two towers that look like the they look kind of like the water cooling towers of a nuclear power plant. They probably are not, though, because I think they usually try to isolate nuclear plants from populated areas. I remember when I was in Brno, which is the second largest city in the Czech Republic, after Prague, of course. I was in Brno and I saw a tower like that next to the street, and I thought, what, did they actually build a nuclear power plant right here? No, they didn't. It's just a water cooling tower. So if you see a tower like that, it doesn't necessarily have to be a nuclear plant. It can just be just a water cooling tower. We just tend to associate them with nuclear plants because that's usually where we see them in the media. But it could just be some other type of factory. Talking of nuclear power plants, this is, of course, not far from Chernobyl.
There's an actual squirrel.
Where?
Here on the tree.
Which tree? There are several trees. Oh, right there. Okay. He just went behind the tree. Yeah, there was a squirrel that just went behind this tree. You gonna resurface? Maybe not. Anyway, no, it's okay. We are not far. Kiev is not far south of Chernobyl, which is just a bit north on this same river. And I actually thought about going there. I always did think that it would be cool one day to go to the power plant. You can actually get a... huh? Oh, there's another squirrel over there.
It's the same squirrel.
I'm going to have a hard time locating him on my camera's view.
Behind the tree.
Yeah, now, these squirrels have the wonderful ability to go behind trees, like on the other side of trees from where I'm filming, whenever we spot them. But that's okay. I've always thought it would be cool to go to the Chernobyl nuclear reactor and actually get a tour. You can actually get a guided tour there. And it's not far from here at all. It probably wouldn't be difficult to do. I don't know if I'll do that this time, though. I'm a little bit nervous about going there, even though I know that it's relatively safe because people do it all the time, but I'm just a little bit skeptical about doing that on this trip, maybe another time. Here the view is a little bit more clear because there are less trees in the way. I really have no idea what this building is. It has 2 helicopter landing pads on the roof, and so my first guess was it's a hospital, so they can airlift people in case of emergency, but it just doesn't really look like a hospital to me. I can't really tell. I mean, I can't guess what other building would have helicopter pads other than a hospital, except maybe some kind of government building, so maybe it's a... But why would they need 2 of them? I don't think they need 2 helicopter pads for... I don't know, I have no idea. I'm pretty sure it's not a military building, so no idea. There doesn't seem to be any sign that I can see indicating what it might be. But yeah, off there in the... behind it is the river and more of the city. Oh, and over here there is there's one of these sort of telescope kind of things that tourists can use in the style of, obviously, of a director's chair and movie camera. There's a little sign for it here.